at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We got to unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights. If we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the Resistance. Tuesday, May 21st. I'm Dean Obeidallah, hoping to be your MBFF. Back from vacation, day 2. I am still rested, and I am needier. I think I'm actually needier now after my vacation. So on Twitter, I'm there for you, at Dean Obeidallah. Or drop me an email. I have to be honest, I never got more emails for one show as I did last night, and the email address is dean@deanofradio.com. And that's because we had this really passionate discussion about Christian Sharia law by the right trying to oppress women in this country and use the Bible. And so I thank everyone. I try to get back to everyone. If I didn't, I'll get back to you tomorrow, I promise. But I love hearing from people. Dean@deanofradio.com. We got a lot to talk about. But first, a little humor courtesy of Colbert. And Colbert is literally reading a tweet. He starts out. He begins by reading a tweet by Trump lashing out at Fox News for having Mayor Pete Buttigieg on. And regardless if you think Democrats should go on Fox News or not, and it's a fair debate, I love the fact it got under Trump's nerves so much he had to go on Twitter and lash out against Fox News. At his rally last night, he got the crowd to boo Fox News. I don't think he gets it. There's no other place to go. Like Breitbart's doesn't reach people like Fox News. You lose Fox News, what are you going to be on, OAN? That doesn't get the ratings. So Trump's doing this as peril, but here is Colbert having fun with it. Here's clip number 1, please.
And Trump tweeted on, Chris Wallace said, I actually think, whether you like his opinions or not, that Mayor Pete has a lot of substance, fascinating biography. Gee, he never speaks well of me. Come on, Chris. Anything Mayor Pete can do, I can do better. I can marry a guy. I'll marry 2 guys, then leave them both for a younger, hotter guy. I'll do it. Don't push me. I will do it in a minute.
So funny stuff by Colbert. So, look, there was a big issue we discussed in great detail a few weeks ago. Did it for like 2 days, maybe even 3 days, and I stopped by design. I did not want to continue the conversation, and that was the idea of should the Democrats in the House move forward with impeachment or not. And I intentionally wanted to stop having the discussion. I thought it was good-natured. I learned a lot. I learned very clearly a few weeks ago, probably about a month ago almost, the Democrats, not all, but most of us wanted to have some impeachment hearings going on. And we have to have the discussion again now because what is going on is ridiculous. And I'm not sure what's going on with the House Democratic leadership. And there could be a big plan here. And the reason I didn't want to continue discussing it because while I disagree with the House Democratic leadership, I could see their point, which was let's do normal investigative hearings right now, expose the truth to our fellow Americans, inform them of Donald Trump's criminality because most Americans did not read the whole Mueller report. In fact, most members of Congress didn't read the Mueller report. They were going to do that. I didn't think they would be able to achieve it. I thought Trump would stonewall to some degree. I could have never predicted to this degree where he's saying no to everything, stopping former employees from even testifying. I couldn't have envisioned that, but I knew it would not be easy. So yet, while this is happening, we're seeing the stonewall. We're seeing Trump saying no to document requests, the subpoenas, saying no to having members of his administration and former members testify. Speaker Pelosi is still holding firm on her view that impeachment is not in the best interests of the Democratic Party and the country, in her view. And I think she's sincere about it. And I have the utmost respect. I am not bashing her at all. I was very happy when she was elected speaker to have someone that savvy and that knowledgeable as speaker. Great. I happen to disagree here. Doesn't mean I dislike Nancy Pelosi for it. I just disagree on this issue. Now, here is Nancy Pelosi yesterday interviewed by Mika Brzezinski for Morning Joe. It didn't air till this morning. And it was after we knew what happened over the weekend with the Republican member of Congress, Justin Amash, calling for impeachment. We knew all the stonewalling going on. And here's Nancy Pelosi speaking to Mika first on, and she makes a really good point here about Republicans being silent. So let's jump down to clip number 4, please.
Justin Amash's position on impeachment, he's tweeted more today. He's come right back at the president. Does it fit the bar for bipartisan support for impeachment?
Well, the bipartisan support for impeachment has to be in the Senate.
Yeah.
In terms of Congressman Amash, his voice speaks to the silence of so many all the other Republicans not to hold this president accountable for the oath of office that he takes to protect and defend the Constitution, respecting the co-equal branches of government. So Amash may be one voice, but the fact that it is in the absence of other voices, it speaks very loudly.
And it does. And that's an excellent point. You have Justin Amash out there. And today, if you didn't follow the House Freedom Caucus, which he co-founded in 2015, Justin Amash put out a statement essentially distancing themselves and denouncing Justin Amash. Speaker Pelosi 100% correct on that. But then here is Mika asking the next question, which is the one I discussed with Rick Unger last night on the show, was, don't you think Justin Amash puts more pressure on the Democrats and the Democratic leadership than it does on the GOP? So here is Mika Brzezinski asking Speaker Pelosi that very question. Let's go to clip 5, please.
Doesn't it put more pressure on you that a conservative Republican says the threshold for impeachment has been met?
No.
No?
No.
Why?
Well, we have to, this isn't about politics. It's not about passion. It's not about prejudice. It's not about politics. It's about patriotism. And it's about the presentation of the facts so that the American people can see why we're going down a certain path. And it is, I feel very confident that the American people know that they deserve to know the truth. And that's what we want to present to them in a way that they don't perceive to be without the presentation of the facts.
And again, I agree with Speaker Pelosi on the idea the American people deserve to know the truth. There's no debating that. We all deserve, everyone, doesn't matter your politics, you should know the truth about what went on. You should know the details of the Mueller report and the crimes that were documented there. But it's not happening now because all the good intentions of the Democrats to have normal congressional hearings and do oversight are being thwarted by Trump. And what he's doing is just delaying it. So it goes 6 months or a year or 2 years to get a final decision by the Federal Appellate Division. Your trial judge will rule right away, but then go to appellate division, then you go, the Court of Appeals to the Supreme Court, and it could be years. That's what Trump is doing. So Americans will never know the truth if you go this route. It's not working. If it was working, we'd be having a different discussion. In fact, it got worse today. Last night, the White House said Don McGahn, the former White House counsel, not current, former White House counsel, they were barring him from testifying before Congress. There was a question, would he at least show up today? He was under subpoena before the House Judiciary Committee, before Gerald Nadler, who's the chair of that committee, and that entire committee, and answer some questions. He didn't show up at all. He did not even, nothing. Didn't show up. Said, I'm not coming because the president said I can't come, through his lawyers. And here's Gerald Nadler on that very issue today, making it very clear his view on this and also going after Trump. Here's clip number 2.
The asserted absolute immunity claim here is entirely unsupported by the case law, close quote from the judicial decision. In other words, when this committee issues a subpoena, even to a senior presidential advisor, the witness must show up. Our subpoenas are not optional. Mr. McGahn has a legal obligation to be here for this scheduled appearance. If he does not immediately correct his mistake, this committee will have no choice but to enforce the subpoena against him.
And enforcing it means holding him in contempt. And if you're wondering, and we have Danny Savalas in the third hour, we'll go through it in more detail. If you're wondering, can a president block a former inner circle person from being subpoenaed before Congress? Well, we have an answer to that. George Bush did the same thing with someone named Harriet Miers. You may recall her name. Bush did the same thing. She didn't work for the White House anymore. He said she was part of my inner circle. I'm not going to allow her to testify. Federal court, trial court said, you're wrong, President Bush. Absolutely, she can testify. Problem was appealed to the Court of Appeals. And before you know it, the entire session of Congress was over and it was done. And that's what Trump is counting on. They knew that case law is against them. It doesn't matter. And then here's Nadler taking it further, talking about Donald Trump. And it's really great to know that last night there was a big heated discussion, apparently, among the Democratic caucus. And Gerald Nadler, the Judiciary Chair at the meeting, and this is based on reporting, He wasn't commenting directly to the reporters, but based on reporting, he said it's time for an impeachment inquiry. So here he is making more of that case without using those words today. Here's clip number 3.
Let me be clear. This committee will hear Mr. McGahn's testimony, even if we have to go to court to secure it. We will not allow the president to prevent the American people from hearing from this witness. We will not allow the president to block congressional subpoenas, putting himself and his allies above the law. We will not allow the president to stop this investigation, and nothing in these unjustified and unjustifiable legal attacks will stop us from pressing forward with our work on behalf of the American people. We will hold this president accountable, one way or the other.
And of course, the other is impeachment. And I'm glad to see that today Democrats began to publicly break not just one or two, but at least a handful so far. And I think the next few days you'll see more on this very issue. AOC, the congresswoman, said, I think we have to move forward on impeachment. Congressman Joaquin Castro from Texas, who's on the House Intel Committee, said it's time to start, which he meant impeachment hearings. Steve Cohen, Democrat from Tennessee, said he's drafted articles of impeachment. They're ready to go. Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon from Pennsylvania said, yes, we need to start an inquiry, meaning impeachment inquiry. Others like Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal said the same thing. Mark Pocan put out a statement today, very point blank, and he'd been on the show a few weeks ago and said, while he'd like to see Trump impeached, he wanted to go the traditional route. Well, today he put out a statement saying that's done. He said, quote, stonewalling Congress on witnesses and the unredacted Mueller report only enhances the president's appearance of guilt. And as a result, he has pushed Congress to a point where we must start an impeachment inquiry. And that's where we are. If you do not do the impeachment inquiry, we will never learn anything. This will be tied up in courts for years and years to come. We will never find out. The American people will never learn the truth. And that's what Speaker Pelosi wants. And I agree with her. She wants the American people to learn the truth. What Donald Trump has done, the stonewalling, is perhaps in his own calculations to be impeached, thinking that gets his base going. I don't care what gets his base going. That should no longer be the metric for any discussion we ever have again here as Democrats. I don't care what gets their base going. I only care what gets our base going. Who cares what gets them going? Everything gets them going. Black people, Muslims, gays get them going. Every diversity gets them going. Oppressing women gets them going. I don't care about that. What gets us going? What makes us knock on doors and make phone calls and work for hours and hours with candidates and canvassing and registering voters and giving money? What gets us going? Because if you don't motivate us, they're going to win because they're going to come out. You need to motivate us. And the best part of this, the impeachment inquiry, it's the right thing to do. Not politically. It's the right thing to do for the United States Constitution. Look, the founders of the nation, the framers, only gave one chamber in the entire of Congress and only one body of the co-equal branches the opportunity and the right to have impeachment. That is the House of Representatives. That's the people's house. That was the only body at the time of the Constitution that was elected by the people, because the Senate was not elected by the people until the 17th Amendment. It was appointed by governors and state legislatures. So the only body was the people's house, the House of Representatives. That's why it's in the Constitution. That's where it starts, in the House of Representatives. Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution cannot be more clear on that. And let's be clear about what an impeachment inquiry is. And I think that's, some people maybe get lost in it and go, well, I'm not sure if we want impeachment. Impeachment inquiry is not impeachment. An impeachment inquiry is simply almost like a grand jury hearing to see is there enough evidence to charge someone, because impeachment means indictment. And if the president gets indicted or any federal official gets indicted, they have the day to have their case heard in the Senate, where they can only be convicted by 2/3. The fact you cannot remove someone from the Senate because you can't get 2/3 does not relieve you of your constitutional obligation in the House to do the right thing. That would be ridiculous. Well, I can't get a conviction in the Senate, so we're not going to do our job. No, we elected you to do your job. And here's your job. This is it. You have the president stonewalling you. The Trump regime, as I call it, stonewalling. And let's look at the inquiry from Clinton Lewinsky to give people, and that's where the same time frame we're in right now, about a month after we got the Mueller report. A month after the report was given to Congress, the House Judiciary Committee, controlled by Republicans then, voted to recommend an impeachment inquiry. We're on the exact same timeline. What happened then? Over the next 2 months, that inquiry took place, which is simply hearings, public hearings, some private, but mostly public, for the American people to see the evidence that the Republicans in that case said they had against President Clinton. After 2 months of an inquiry, beginning October 8th on December 11th, the House Judiciary Committee finally said, we have enough evidence, we're voting to impeach Bill Clinton. And they did that on December 11th. December 19th, the entire House in 1998 voted to impeach Bill Clinton along partisan basis, as you might imagine, although some Democrats did vote for the impeachment because it's simply an indictment. And then later the trial began in January. The trial is for 5 weeks long. So the time frame right now is you have the impeachment inquiry. They call for it. Let's hope for the next few weeks. And then in the summer, we have the impeachment inquiry. It's not a rush. It's not like breakneck speed, but you do it over the next few months. And then by September, you make a decision. And you say to the American people, here is the evidence we found. And either it rises to the level of indicting or impeaching Donald Trump, or it doesn't. And if it does, here are our articles of impeachment, which essentially are the grand jury indictment. Here are the 2 or 3 or 4 counts we have. And now we're going to vote. And we'll see if the rest of the House of Representatives agrees with us. And they do. It simply goes to the Senate for a trial. And there the trial is presided over by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And you have the House managers picked by, in this case, the Democrats. They are essentially the prosecutors who will prosecute the case against Donald Trump. The same way they had House managers against Bill Clinton, and Lindsey Graham was one of them. And I want to play a clip, just the beginning of the very first day of the trial in the Senate, not the impeachment, the trial. Bill Clinton's already been impeached. And here's the trial. And they designated the time Congressman Henry Hyde, a Republican, to be the manager of the prosecution, in essence. And he reads a little bit. And keep in mind, this is on national TV. And I ask you, do you not want to hear this on national TV? As our House manager, whoever that person is, I bet you it's going to be Adam Schiff, reads on national TV the allegations and the articles of impeachment against Donald John Trump. And I'll just play a minute of you to remind people what everyone in the nation heard. And think about what it would be like to hear now. Here's clip number 6.
With the permission of the Senate, I will now read the articles of impeachment. House Resolution 611, resolved that William Jefferson Clinton, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the United States Senate. Articles of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives of the United States of America in the name of itself and of the people of the United States of America against William Jefferson Clinton, President of the United States of America, in maintenance and support of its impeachment against him for high crimes and misdemeanors. Article 1. In his conduct while President of the United States, William Jefferson Clinton, in violation of his constitutional oath faithfully to execute the office of President of the United States and to the best of his ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has willfully corrupted and manipulated the judicial process of the United States for his personal gain and exoneration, impeding the administration of justice.
That's exactly what you will hear about Donald Trump. You will see that on national television. Adam Schiff, in all likelihood, reading on the Senate floor as the House manager. Here are the charges against Donald Trump. In fact, let me play a 15-second clip to make you. I want everyone to envision this. I'm not kidding. I want you to picture in your mind Adam Schiff on the floor of the Senate in front of the national television audience on day 1 of the trial of Donald Trump, and we'll have Henry Hyde play it, but I doctored it slightly. Here's clip number 7.
With the permission of the Senate, I will now read the articles of impeachment. House Resolution 611, resolved that
Donald John Trump,
President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors.
How good would that make you feel to hear that? Honestly, that was obviously my voice, not Henry Hyde. But I want people to actually picture in your mind's eye that would be the result. If we have the impeachment inquiry, there is no doubt there's evidence there of obstruction of justice on various counts and witness intimidation in violation of federal law and abuse of power. There's no doubt we will have articles of impeachment drafted, and there's no doubt that the House will pass it and it'll go to the Senate. And one day, in the fall, the House manager, and it might be Adam Schiff or someone else, but I think Adam Schiff will stand there and read for the whole nation to hear that the House resolution resolved that Donald John Trump, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors. And never has the words been so accurately applied to a president as Donald J. Trump, a criminal in our White House, a man who's committed crimes before he came to office and is committing them still. If this was not designed, if the framers met Trump, they would be like, this is why we came up with impeachment. This is the guy. Like, what are you waiting for? We came up with it. We never thought someone this grotesque would get in there. Boom, he's there. What are you waiting for, Speaker Pelosi? So the time has come. And what's remarkable is Justin Amash, a Republican, a conservative, a guy who gets like a 90 rating by conservative groups, is calling for impeachment. And he's more in line with the Democratic base, which 70% of us want impeachment, than the Speaker of the House, who's a Democrat and second and third in command. It is time for the Democrats, the leadership, to follow the base. Waiting for them to lead is a fool's errand. And we have to lead this party. It's up to us. And it's time. And I can assure you, if 70% of the GOP base supported something, the leaders of the GOP would be following that. They'd be running with them going, of course, this is what we're going to do. And they'd be doing it for horrible, ridiculous things like lock her up and Hillary's emails and Uranium One, all that garbage. We're talking about something based on a report written by Robert Mueller, a lifelong Republican, and just using that. We don't even need to go beyond that. I say, here's the basis for impeachment, and we're going to have hearings. And you know what? If at the end of the hearings they really don't have the evidence and they can't draft articles of impeachment, so be it. But I'll say at least you did your job. It's time. Do your job. The Constitution demands it. Forget politics. I don't care the political fallout of this. This is for the good of the United States of America, to make it clear that a president cannot accept help from a foreign adversary and then go on to obstruct an investigation, intimidate witnesses, and abuse his power to stop that investigation and get away scot-free and go on Fox News and declare himself a victor when he's not. And polls show most Americans, we want impeachment. Most Americans don't. Still, most Americans think Donald Trump's a criminal. So there's a disconnect there. I think the impeachment hearings are the way to go. So I want to hear from you. 866-997-4748. We got a great show, a lot of great guests lined up. We have Jim Sciutto from CNN is going to be here next hour in studio for the whole hour. He's a really good book, The Shadow War. He's a foreign correspondent. He's the chief national security expert there, but he's done so much in Asia reporting, and his insight into China and Russia is remarkable. His book is great. In the third hour, we're going to have Danny Savalas here, but also Congressman Ruben Gallego is going to call in for a few minutes in that hour, so we'll talk to him about impeachment as well. But I want to hear from you. You're my guest right now at the top of the hour. 866-997-4748. Give me a call. Be right back.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
Whoever's the next president, we should call them the 45th president of the United States. And this will go